warmest of greetings to you. I am your storyteller, Chip. And for me, this year has felt like one long day. One really long day. Because many of the days have been the same. Has it been like that for you? It's certainly made me feel like it's been one long day. Which reminded me of a story. Now you have probably heard many stories that begin with words like a long time ago. But this story begins with the words the long time ago. Because this story starts at the very, very beginning, when the creators of the world had made the world brand new. But they did not invent ours. So there was just one long day. A really long day. And on this same day, the creators of the world made some twins. A boy called Yama and a girl called Yami. Now, these twins, they loved each other and they would play all the time. And on this same long... Yeah, it's going to get rather annoying if I keep doing that, isn't it? Let's just say on this same day, the twins grew up to be teenagers. And Yami taught her brother how to dance. And Yama painted the nails of him and his sister. And on this same day, the twins grew up to be grown-ups. And Yami would go out to collect the sweetest foods. And then she would bring them back for Yama to cook. At the start of this story, it was the same day. And Yami had gone out to collect some of the sweetest foods. But when she came back, she saw her brother lying down under a tree. At first, she had a smile on her face as she went and gently shook her brother. And she said, "Brother, are you tired? You've gone to sleep under a tree." But after shaking and shaking and shaking him, and shouting and shouting and shouting at him, and getting confused and then angry and then worried and then sad, Yummy realized her brother was not going to wake up. Yama had died. And Yummy sat down next to the tree and began to cry. Now, a little while later, some animals saw Yummy crying, and they said, "Yummy, why are you crying?" And Yummy replied, "This is the day my brother has died." A longer while later, the birds saw that Yummy was crying. So they went and they asked, "Yummy, why are you crying?" And Yummy replied, "This is the day my brother has died." A much, much longer time later, the creators of the world saw that Yummy was crying. And they said, "Yummy, why are you crying?" And Yummy replied, "This is the day my brother has died." Now, a much, much longer period of time later, the animals came back and saw that Yummy was still crying. So they said, "Yummy, why are you still crying? Isn't this a day for playing?" But Yummy replied, "I can't play today. This is the day my brother has died." An even longer period of time later, the birds saw that Yummy was still crying. So they said, "Yummy, why are you still crying? Isn't this a day for dancing?" But Yummy said back to them, "I can't dance today. This is the day my brother died." An inordinately long period of time later, the creators of the world saw that Yummy was still crying. And they said, "Yummy, you're still crying? Isn't this a day for going out and gathering the sweetest food?" But Yummy said back to them, "I can't go out and gather food today. This is the day my brother has died." An exceedingly long period of time later, the animals came back to Yummy and said, "Yummy, please stop crying. Your tears are covering our homes." But Yummy replied, I can't stop crying. This is the day my brother died. An absolutely huge amount of time later, the birds flew to Yami and said, Yami, please stop crying. Your tears are covering up our nests. But Yami said back to them, I can't stop crying. This is the day my brother has died. An absolutely humongous amount of time later, the creators of the world came to Yami and said, please, Yami, stop crying. Your tears are flooding the world. But Yami said back to them, I can't stop crying. This is the day my brother died. The animals, the birds, and the creators of the world all gathered to think, what could they do? They needed to stop Yami from crying. But if anyone tried to stop Yami from crying, well, she would just say, I can't stop crying. This is the day my brother died. And the creators of the world, they realized it would always be the day that Yami's brother died, because it was one long day. So they realized they needed to make a night. So that's what they did. They asked the sun to hide under the world, while the moon took his place. Then they got a blanket of stars and wrapped it around the world. The animals and the birds, they helped too. They dug holes and went to sleep. Though some of the animals and birds, they actually liked the moon more. So they stayed up to eat. Animals like the fox and the bat and the owl. When Yami saw all of this, she began to get tired and realized it was time to sleep. After some time, the creators of the world asked the moon and the sun to swap places. The animals and the birds who had been asleep, they came back. Animals like the deer and the robin and the cow. Yami also woke up and she felt very sad as she went around gathering food. Some of the animals asked why she was sad. And she told them, "Yesterday, my brother died." The creators of the world made several new days, and they made many new nights. And 7 days later, Yummy was out dancing with a smile, thinking of how Yumma had loved to dance. Afterwards, she felt sad, and some of the birds asked her why she was sad. And Yummy told them, "Last week, my brother died." Time began to move. There were hours in every day, and there were many new days, until they had made a year, and another year, and another year. And sometimes Yummy could be found painting her nails with a smile, though it would be a sad smile. And if anyone asked her why she was sad, she would say, "I am remembering my brother who died." But at the end of every day, Yummy would look at that tree in their garden, and she would have a big smile on her face as she said, "Good night, my brother." Well, what did you think of that story? I think it's a very sweet story. Poor Yummy. But Hindus believe that it's thanks to Yummy, the creators of the world made night. And night is very important, isn't it? Because night allows us to have new days. And new days mean that we can have new years. And that means we can do things like celebrate your birthday. You couldn't have a birthday if it was all just one long day. You couldn't really have any sort of celebration of the past, could you? And it's the new days and the new years that help us to make sure that tomorrow is better than yesterday. I imagine, though, that for a long time it must have been quite confusing for Yummy. Remember, she'd only had one really long day before, so she didn't know what mornings were like, or lunchtimes, or bedtimes even. She didn't know that morning was a time for new clothes, or that it was a time to go to school. She didn't know that lunchtime was the time to eat. It was the time for food. So, if you liked this story, I'd like to ask you to have a go at this epic challenge. See if you can write a diary for Yami to help her learn what a day is like, what a morning is, what a lunchtime is, what happens in a day. You might be able to think of some name words, things like clothes and food for the different parts of the day. Maybe you can think of some doing words for the different parts of the day, like going to school or eating. And once you have made your diary, perhaps you could put some pictures in there if you want to. In fact, you could do your whole thing with pictures if you want to. Maybe you could record you doing a whole day. Show us what a day is like so that we can show Yami. If you find a way to show us what a day looks like, the different things that happen all throughout a day, send it to epictales.co.uk/challenge. Whether you write it, draw it, film it, or all of these things. Send it to us and then we will share your ideas. And who knows, maybe you'll get another story from us. Right now, though, it only remains for me to say cheerio, and I hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio! And I hope to hear your story soon.